Hello and welcome to another installment of Bird's Eye View Media.
Where we drop shit on you.
Oh yeah, that's so much better. Okay, so we both saw Spectator recently, the newest James Bond movie.
Is that 00 something?
Well, it's basically where he's like, there's all these missions, but now he just sits at like a computer screen where he can watch all of the missions. It's called Spectator. It's the least action-packed film yet, but I feel like it's much more accurate to real life because in real life, the NSA basically just sits there staring at a computer screen, and that's what agents do. So, you know...
Is the climax going to be when he spills the coffee on the keyboard and somehow that fries the
Well, I guess we're going to have
tower?
to put a spoiler alert on the video now. Jesus Christ.
I'm an asshole.
Okay, so we just saw Spectre, the newest Bond film with Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig, so far, has done a really, really good job, in my opinion, as Bond. Casino Royale, probably my favorite. Quantum of Solace, not super great, but it's still better than like the average Roger Moore movie, in my opinion. Skyfall, pretty much everybody really liked. It had a lot of that anniversary stuff going on. The villain was cool.
The car was sweet.
The car was very sweet. And now we have Spectre, which is very unique because they basically rebooted Bond with Daniel Craig, which really hasn't been done before. In the past, when they've changed the actors for Bond, they basically just pretended that nothing changed. They just kept going with the story, or maybe the story was just completely unrelated. But with Daniel Craig, Casino Royale he didn't have any gadgets really in the entire movie.
Because nobody's going to realize when you go from Pierce Brosnan to Daniel Craig. They look very similar. If they were in a lineup, you wouldn't be able to separate the two.
Yeah, I mean... I like how all the Bond actors have a different style. Daniel Craig is similar to Timothy Dalton, where he's really gritty, it's really dark, and Pierce Brosnan and Roger Moore were more ridiculous, and everything was, like, crazy. But Spectre is cool because we've now reintroduced the new Bond. So, basically, Spectre is Skyfall. We meet the new Q. He gets a bunch of new gadgets. M dies, spoiler alert. But Spectre is where it picks up right where Sean Connery became Bond. Like, it reintroduces Blofeld, who is the most consistent villain for the most amount of movies, but this time it's being portrayed by Christoph Waltz instead of some bald, overweight guy.
You find out that for the first time, because Q is now a youthful character, that he actually does have a pair.
Yeah, which is very interesting.
Yeah, doesn't look like he'd have one.
But, you know, Spectre has... Spectre's getting a lot of mixed reviews right now. Spectre, I thought, was a very good film. I'm not sure if I like it more than Skyfall, but in my opinion, I think they're close. Skyfall and Spectre, to me, are pretty close in quality. I think Casino Royale is better than both of them. But a lot of people don't even like Spectre. They don't even think it's a good movie.
I think the biggest downfall for Spectre going into it is Skyfall tied in a lot of the past, just like Spectre was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Being, the anniversary, being a special one, which, side note, the next one is apparently going to be the 25th installment, so that's going to probably have a lot of the same themes in the sense of connecting to the past. But both films connect to the past heavily in their own rights, and Skyfall was exceptional. Spectre had the ability to surpass that, and I feel like they had resources that they didn't fully utilize.
Well, I mean, Spectre's biggest issue is probably pacing. I feel like for 30 minutes of the first, like, the opening sequence was cool with the Day of the Dead and all of that. But then we spend a lot of time before we truly meet Christoph Waltz as Blofeld.
Which, it is an absurd amount of time. I'd be interested to know how long quite it does take into the movie, because I even remember sitting in the theater going, when are we finally going to meet him? Because you cannot delay a reveal like that late in the movie, when that opening scene where he meets Bond is in the teasers.
Yeah,
so
that's true. Yeah.
That was creating a hype for a situation that you then had to wait to the point where you are now frustrated to experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that's more of the fault of marketing than it would be the actual movie. Unfortunately, that scene was very, very, very good, too. Like, the lighting was very cool. The light source was completely behind Blofeld, and we couldn't tell who it was, but like you said, the trailer really did ruin that, because we knew, anyone who saw the trailer, which is most people, knew who it would be. I still thought it was very cool. I like Blofeld a lot as a villain. Unfortunately, the film, it spends a lot of time kind of exploring what happened in the past between the two of them, and he doesn't truly threaten Bond other than a very brief, probably 20-minute scene of him doing the typical Bond torture. Like, Bond gets captured, Bond gets tortured with some new device, which, by the way, this time was fucking creepy. Like, I hated watching that.
Yeah.
Those fucking needles boring into his temples. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was a unique twist, though. You know, Daniel Craig has probably experienced some of the worst tortures, because I will never forget...
the ball sack. The
Yeah.
ball sack knot.
I will admit, Daniel Craig's character has an exceptional set of balls to be hit there repetitively, and then to sit there and look at your torture and go, like a Sunday picnic.
The whole world's gonna know you scratched my balls. But
I don't feel that I would be so cheeky in that situation.
But unfortunately, other than that one torture scene where he's captured, Blofeld really doesn't threaten him. Like,
he doesn't, never directly.
Yeah, a little bit later in the film, we go through a very cool, like, where they're in the MI6 building. It reminded me a lot of The Man with the Golden Gun, where he has a lot of these things from his past on the walls. There's all these psychological mind fucks, like, through this maze type of thing. But there isn't really a true showdown. Like, Blofeld is protected from the start when he sees him, goes up into a helicopter, Bond shoots the helicopter down. They don't truly meet. And I understand Blofeld is supposed to be a psychological villain, and he's the schemer. But the problem is the muscle was killed halfway through the movie and completely gone by that point.
Side note, the muscle, played by, I can't remember his first name.
Dan Bautista, I believe.
Yeah. Who, unfortunately, is an ex-wrestler, but fortunately does exceptional in this movie. And a side note that most people don't know, recently I heard an interview with him. While they were filming the fight scene in the train, which was actually one of the first scenes that they filmed, amidst that fight, he actually helped Daniel Craig tear his ACL, which required them to reshoot that scene at the end of the movie, because he spent most of the movie healing from an ACL tear.
Yeah, so, I mean, naturally, that's... I don't know, I feel like I understand Spectre is trying to bring everything back to Sean Connery. It's trying to get back to that traditional formula that Bond
doesn't
follows.
love that old Scottish bastard?
But the thing is that I just want a different type of villain. I liked Blofeld. I would have liked to have seen more actual kind of fighting with Blofeld. Not like fist fighting, but more direct kind of instances. I don't know. I feel like ever since I saw Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, I've really wanted a villain who can be both physically imposing and intellectually imposing. And that's not really done. In pretty much every movie these days, it's either psychological villain or physical villain.
Well, I think you run into a situation there where movies are unrealistic to begin with on a lot of instances.
Yeah.
But to go with someone who is the complete package, like even Bane wasn't really the complete package. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was not by any means stupid, but you find out that the daughter is actually the mind behind everything.
But, I mean, Bane was certainly intelligent in the simple tactical exchanges.
It was, but his intelligence isn't the fuel that burns that engine.
Yeah, I think my underlying point is basically just when they're muscle bound, like if they're the enforcer, they're usually very stupid. Like, especially in Bond. Like, Jaws is one of the most iconic Bond villains. He's very stupid.
Oh, yeah.
He barely even talks. He just shows up, smiles at Bond, grabs his throat, and then Bond does something really dumb to escape him. Like,
Or,
that's basically the
I
formula.
can't remember his name. The Asian guy from what was it? Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah. Or
Who
Odd
the
Job.
whole movie is almost always just looking at Bond, going.
But Odd Job is like that too, where Odd Job never talks.
Which is actually why
yeah.
Batista never speaks. Is that is supposed to be, obviously, if you know what Odd Job looks like, you can see that it's a very similar outfit and presentation, physical build. That's why he doesn't speak, as an ode to Odd Job.
For that reason, I really did appreciate Spectre. If you have seen a lot of the very old Bond films with Connery and Roger Moore, there are a lot of very small nods to those films. They not only are they returning to the formula, but they're symbolizing the old films. The Man with the Golden Gun, Maze type of deal. He follows the torture traps just like every Bond film has done. You have the Odd Job metaphor. You have the cat before they reveal that he's Blofeld. We see how Blofeld gets his scar. It's very, very cool to go back to all of these movies. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of the audience won't ever pick up on that, simply because they were born so far after most of these movies came out. Okay, so overall, I think Spectre was good. I think its purpose to return to formula was done about as well as it could be.
I think it was done well, but I do think that it falls short of Skyfall because you have Christoph Waltz, who does an amazing job with the role, better than I expected, even though I did expect quite a bit from him.
Mm-hmm.
But they really failed to utilize having a character that strong and bringing him into the storyline and allowing him to function more.
Simply could have had more screen time. That's basically what it comes down to.
Though, on a side note, when he is in the when he's in the old building and he's about to blow it up and he offers Bond a chance to save the girl or save himself, I would have truly loved if Sean Connery comes out from the darkness and quotes from The Rock when he is facetiously Bond, "Losers quit, winners go home and fuck the prom queen."
Seems like there's a lot of The Dark Knight now that we're talking about it. There's a lot of parallels with The Dark Knight because that's exactly what the Joker did. David Fincher directing, Daniel Craig, great actor, Rooney Mara, back when she wasn't super well known, nominated for an Oscar for it. Great film.
And talk about a cast really grabbing hold of a script and making it come to life.